Due to high demand, I decided to do a quick video on the tickets for the adults and children's questions, just to give you an example. So here's the first question. A ski resort charges $80 for adult all-day passes and $35 for children's all-day passes. On a particular day, they made $47,790 in sales altogether. They also know that they sold 648 passes. This means they must have sold a certain number of adult passes and a certain number of children's passes. So the first thing I like to do, just because I like to organize the information, my learning style is not taking it from the words here. I need to see it. So I'm going to do a table. And all I did was I quickly set up, I know I have adult passes and children passes. I know that there's a cost associated and a number associated, and I'll look at a total. So I know the cost for adult tickets is $80. The cost for children's tickets are $35. And so I don't know the adult number of tickets or the children's number of tickets, but I do know the total number of their tickets. They sold a total number of 648 tickets. So I need to come up with something to represent how many adult tickets and how many children's tickets. So we could do X and Y. I'm going to go ahead and do A and C. A standing for the number of adult tickets and C standing for the number of children's tickets. To find the total amount spent for the adult tickets, I'm going to do the cost times how many adult tickets we have. So if there was only one adult ticket, $80 times 1 gives me the total of how much was spent on the adults is $80, and so forth. It's going to be more than one because we have 648 tickets sold, passes sold. Again, so over here, we're going to get 80 times A, and I'm just going to type 80A because if there's nothing in between the number and the variable, it means multiply. And here we have 35C. And down here, I also have another total. The reason being because if I add up how much was made from the adult passes and the children's passes, I'm going to get their total that made for the day, which was $47,790. There we go. So now I just need to figure out what the A and the C are. I do know right here that I have an equation. If I add the number of adult tickets to children's tickets, I'll get 648 total passes. Sorry, I keep saying passes. I mean tickets. I mean passes. Over here, if I add the total of how much they made on the adult tickets and how much they made on the children's tickets, I'll get the total they made all together. So I have my two equations. A plus C equals 648, and 80A plus 35C equals $47,790, which I've written over here in Microsoft Word, just because I kind of like working over here. You can go ahead and keep working in this, and I'm going to come back and show you a trick you can do if you don't want to work it out algebraically. You can actually use Microsoft Excel to kind of guess and get your way to there. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to take my second equation, since it's simpler, and just solve it for a variable. So I'm going to solve for A. To solve for A, I want to isolate A on this side of the equation, which means I need to subtract C to get rid of it here. So if I'm going to do it on one side, I need to do it on the other. So I'm going to subtract C here and subtract C here. That means these C's will cancel out, and I'm left with A equals 648 minus C. Now, some of you are thinking, well, that doesn't do me a whole lot of good, except that I have this second equation here. And the good it did me was now I have this solved for a variable. I can do a substitution. So I can take all of this and replace in the other equation every time I see A with 648 minus C. So I'm going to do 80. Now instead of the A, we're going to do 648 minus C. And notice I put those all in parentheses because that whole thing represents A. Then add 35C equals 47,790. There we go. Okay, so to continue solving this, I need to do the distributive property here, which means 80 needs to be multiplied to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to come back over here to Excel just to make it work like a calculator. Those of you who aren't comfortable with that, I'm going to kind of go through it a little slowly. The reason being I'm going to use it is we have a lot of projects using Microsoft Excel, and I want you to get familiar with it on small terms so that you get comfortable, and by the time we get to the projects, it won't be as scary. Although on all of your homework, if you don't really want to use Excel, go ahead and use your calculator, but just keep that in mind that it's nice to use it on these small things so that by the time we get to the big stuff, you're feeling like a champion on it. Okay, so we're going to do 80. Oh, to make it calculate like a calculator, you have to type the equal sign in. And then I want to calculate 80 times 648. That's for my first part of the distributive property here, 80 times the 648. So I'm going to press enter, and I get 51,840. Now I need to multiply that 80 times the negative C. There's nothing in front of this C, so we assume it's a 1, and then we're going to put minus because that's the value. We have negative and then 80C. There we go. Then plus 35C because that is not in the parentheses. We don't do the distributive. Equals 47,790. There we go. Now we need to keep working towards our final answer. And we need to combine the C's here and then isolate the C's, which means I need to remove this 51,840. So I'm going to go ahead and combine my C's first just because it'll look nicer. And the nice thing about doing things on the computer versus by hand, for my next step, I can just copy and paste. I'm going to press Control V. And then here, for my next step, I'm just going to combine those. 80 is negative, plus 35 is going to be a negative because it's more negative on the 80. If you're not comfortable doing that, go ahead and use your Excel. Get it to calculate like a calculator. Equals negative 80 plus 35, and press enter. I know some of you are just doing that in your head, and that's okay. You can do that. And so I'm going to just replace this with negative 45. There we go. Now I still want to continue isolating the C, so I want to subtract 51,840 from both sides. The reason I'm subtracting is because it's a positive. 51,840. There we go. And I want to subtract it over here as well. Minus 51,840. Okay, so these cancel out right here. And I could go ahead and do the strike through feature. If you're doing this by hand, you can just use your pencil and scratch those out because 51,840 minus 51,840 is 0. So I'm left on my next step that I'm just left with this negative 45C equals, I'm going to take my 51,840 and subtract, or make that negative and add the 47,790. I can do a cell reference here. I think I'll show you both ways. So the first way, I'm just going to press equals 47,790 minus 51,840 and press enter, and I get negative 4,050. Okay, I'm going to show you one more way just to get you familiar with Excel. It's called a cell reference. I'm going to press equals, and instead of having to type this number in, because it's 5 digits long, you might accidentally make a mistake. The convenience here is I can make negative and then just left click inside the cell, and it references that exact number, so I don't have to worry about typing it in. And then I'm going to do a positive 47, and I'm going to again cell reference my 47,790, just because I might accidentally make a typo, and then press enter, and it gives me the same answer. And that way I didn't have to type it in. It's called cell referencing. Each of these little boxes is a cell, and I'm just referencing those cells that have those numbers, and it's pretty convenient. Okay, so now I need to continue solving for C. To isolate the C here, I have negative 45 times C, so I need to do the opposite, which is then divide both sides by negative 45. So I'm going to copy and paste this down for my next step, so I'm not skipping anything for anyone. And I'm going to move this over just so it all stays lined up. And I'm going to do divide by negative 45. I guess I should move that over so the equal signs are lined up better. There we go. And I need to also do this one, divide by negative 45. Okay, negative 45 divided by negative 45 here is 1, which is fantastic. That's what we want. 1 times C is C, so we can just leave that as C. Now I just need to figure out the negative 4,050 divided by 45. And again, I can come over here and make it work like a calculator. Oops, pardon me. And press equals negative 4,050 divided by negative 45. Now that's making it work like you would a calculator. I'm going to show you cell referencing next. Press enter, and I get 90. Okay, so the cell referencing. I'm going to come over here, and I can pick any cell, by the way. I could come clear out here. I'm just keeping it all together. I could even come down here. I'm just going to pick this one and press equals, and I'm going to cell reference my 4050 right here, and then just divide by negative 45. So press the divide sign, negative 45, and that way I didn't have to type this, and I don't have to worry about making any typos. And then press enter, and there we go, 90, which should match. That's perfect. Okay, so that means that they sold 90 children's passes. But that's only half the question. They asked for how many adult passes and how many children's passes. So I need to find out how many adult passes we have. I do know that when I add them together, I get 648. So I can subtract 90 from 648, and that'll get me the adult ticket. Or I can, those of you who are more algebraic in your thinking, you could come over here and say, since C equals 90, I can plug it back into this equation that I found, and then do 648 minus 90. Either way you think about it, you're going to take 648, subtract 90, and you'll get your answer for the adult ticket. I'm going to come here, and just because I'm cell referencing, might as well, it's already typed in, I'm going to press equals, and then reference my 648, so I don't have to type it in, and subtract 90 children's passes, and that'll leave me with how many adult passes? 558. So there we go, 558 adult passes. Okay, now that's the algebraic way, and some of you might like that way better. There's another way I could do this as well, and that's using Excel. Some of you are comfortable with Excel. I'm just going to delete those. And I'm just going to show you kind of a trick. And this one, you don't have to use the algebra. It would just be kind of a guess and check method. So what I'm going to do, instead of actually typing 80 times A, I'm going to leave these blank. And over here, I'm going to use Excel to its capacity. I'm going to say equals 80 and actually times it to this cell. Now nothing's there, so it'll say 0 because there's nothing in here. at the moment. And again, I'm going to do the same thing here. Equals the cost times the number. Again, it's going to be 0 because I don't have a number in there. And then I'm going to set this up. I know that to find the total, it should be 47,790. That's why I moved these down here, just so that I remember that's what it should be. But I'm going to actually calculate it up. I'm going to add this plus this, and it'll calculate it as I go. Again, over here, I need to add, I'm going to equal the adult tickets plus the children's tickets. Okay, now just to show you what I'm doing, I'm going to put in a 1 here. There we go. If I put a 1, that means I sold one adult ticket, which is $80. I sold a total of 1 ticket, or pass, and the total that I earned was 80. I could put 1 children's ticket here, and that changes that I got 2 because I'm adding these. These are being multiplied for the total, and these are added for the final total. And I can just start guessing now. Since I need to get up to 648, I could guess 600, and then because I need it to be 48, 648, there we go. Could just guess that. And you'll see I'm over, but I need to be. And so it's just a matter of just guessing and checking, and you could do it that way as well. There's lots of different ways you could figure these kind of problems out. That was just 2 of them. I'm sure you all have some other different creative ways that you want to go by and do this. By the way, you could just go through and figure it out that way. So if you have any questions, let me know.